Hi, everybody. I just wanted to welcome everyone who is taking some time to join us this afternoon. It is always wonderful to be here for another episode of the Artful Leadership interview series. And what we're really doing here with this interview series is capturing the inspiring stories and the wisdom of leaders who are working at the intersection of the arts, education, healing, and social change. And this particular season, we've been talking about how organizations have responded to this unusual time and what we can learn from them. And today I'm super excited to have a team of folks here, which is a little bit unusual. We've got a team from Fern St Circus here today. And so I'm going to allow you all to introduce yourselves. Why don't we start with John, since you are the co-founder of the circus, and then we'll kind of make our way around the group. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what brings you here today.
Sure. Well, thanks, Rochelle. Thanks for having us here, and thanks for creating this series. It sounds great to be here. I'm John Hihkin. I'm co-founder and executive director of Fern St Circus, and our organization is actually Fern St Community Arts. But um, my background is I was a bar musician in my 20s and directed theater quite a bit in my 30s, and then really started Fern St when I got particularly interested in circus as a mobile art form. Uh, I have been back with it since 2014. So my wife Cindy Zimmerman and I restarted it back then.
Very cool. So Erica, I'm so excited to have you here today too. So share a little bit about who you are and what your role is with the circus.
Hello, I am Erica Saben. I'm the Education Director for Fern St Circus. I've been with the circus since its relaunch in 2014, early 2015. And I've worn many hats with the circus since I started with them. I started as a wire coach, still currently teaching tight wire, still part of our shows, have directed shows, have choreographed shows, and now we're just focusing on our online instruction and how we can make that better. My background's in the arts. I've been working in theater, dance, and circus, music since the 90s, really.
Wow, awesome. And then we've got one more guest who is Marcela. Will you tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing with the circus?
Hello, thank you for having us here and present the Fern St Circus. My name is Marcela Mercado. I am the board president for Fern's Community Art, and I also have 3 students in the after school program. And I'm a resident here in City Heights, and I'm thankful to have Fern St Circus in my community.
Awesome. Well, welcome all 3 of you. It's so great to have a different representation of all these different sort of stakeholders from this very unique circus. We've got a founder, we've got a teaching artist and an artist, and then a board member and someone whose children have experienced like the wonder of being a part of this program. So I was hoping that you could talk a little bit about what it is that you're celebrating right now. After all this time, and what do you think has made you so unique in our community? And whoever wants to jump in, just jump in.
I would say the expert on the 30 years of Fern St Circus might just be John.
It's possible. It's possible. Um, well, we started the circus originally, my wife Cindy Zimmerman and I, out of an interest of it, circus as a means to tell a story, a means to be in a neighborhood. That was really key from the start. And actually, when Cindy was working at the city's Commission for Arts and Culture, and I went in with the idea of creating a circus in my neighborhood. I lived at the time in Golden Hill. As it got more and more gentrified, they didn't want to have the name Golden Hill, so it became South Park.
Right.
But we were the first years we did shows in Grape Street Park, which had actually had a pretty troubled history. The first woman police officer to be killed in the line of duty was shot there in a drug deal. So it was within that neighborhood that was really economically mixed, culturally mixed. As you can see, there are a lot of beautiful old craftsman houses, but uh, I was always a renter there. So was Cindy, but that park was not well thought of, and it was really a lot of the effort to rehabilitate it and make it kind of more single use than anything were dog owners. So it's a dog park and not a place that necessarily is a non-dog owner that I want to go particularly, but well, it's the smell of the place. I'm sorry, excuse me. Actually, the first years we were there, it was really dogs. The dogs were around, but the people who had the dogs really changed the nature of that park. But we contributed because we did for 4 years. We played there every year. Um, but it's the idea of being able to perform in a neighborhood, and I like circus for a number of reasons. And I was, I mentioned I was a theater director, and I'd actually been, I right before I moved to San Diego to be a directing intern at the Old Globe, I was at Bertolt Brecht's Theater in East Berlin, and so I had a really great grounding in political theater that was very specific about working. Brecht always worked with great musicians, composers, great scene set designers. Was Really paid attention to details like getting to know and to support and work with really good quality craftspeople.
Mm.
So that was my orientation, and I realized working in regional theater that I wanted to do something that was much more on a sidewalk level. And I'd gotten interested in circus when I was in Berlin and getting to know some people who had been acrobats and variety artists, and then came across the actors in Berlin were really great theater physical actors. So I was kind of moving toward that, and as a musician, really always interested in how music can help move a production along. Um, and the very first year that I was in San Diego, Cirque du Soleil came to town. It's the first time they'd been in the United States. So they had a single show. It was a brilliant show, and I looked and I thought I was seeing what circus could be in some way. So I got really interested in what circus could do as an art form, and thinking about it in terms of how it could work in neighborhoods. And that was really a foundational thing. We were always, from the very beginning, we had kids in our show. The choreographer we had that first year had choreographed Christmas Carol at San Diego Rep, and he said, "Well, got a couple of kids who were really wonderful and physical, and one of them, young woman, she was like 10 years old or 11 years old, Olga Macias, could do hula hooping. And the kid who played Tiny Tim, the Corey Abosada, and he was a really great acrobat. He was a black belt in Taekwondo, I think, and was actually in the military later out afterwards. But so we had Corey and Olga there, and then Olga's little brother uh, had a good comic touch, so we added him. So from the start, we had three kids tied in, and integrated them with the adults we worked with. And the next year, we invited a few kids into the show. We rehearsed everything at Grape Street Park all summer long, and started teaching juggling to passersby, and that really led us to think about actually teaching. And in March of 1993, after we'd done a little pilot after school program up at Boys and Girls Club in Carlsbad, we started teaching at Golden Hill Recreation Center, and began what is still an ongoing partnership with the Parks and Rec Department. So, and in that case, our kind of core three or four teaching artists, two of whom were eighth generation, seventh generation circus acrobats, uh, Ottavio and Pietro Tu Canestrelli. They brought their dad in, who then taught with Fern Street until I think maybe 2008, so 15 years. And a lot of what we do is to create a welcoming environment in which students can learn informally, and in which the ones who are really get excited about it, we find ways to support them. And but we make it as intentionally non-competitive, and we provide our students with the opportunity to perform with adult artists every year. It used to be we play in Balboa Park for a couple of weeks and do a few run-up shows to it. But so what we've done since Cindy and I came back to the circus after an 11-year absence in 2014 is that we focus on creating what we call our neighborhood tour. So in the last full time we could do it was in 2019, and we did 9 shows in 9 different parks. And the last several years, Erica, it's been about 30 kids, something like that we've been bringing in.
Every year we say, okay, so in order to optimize the experience for the kids, let's keep it down to 15 kids in the show. And then every year we go to our coach and we say, which kids are we keeping? And then we just look over the field of kids and we're like, oh, we can't exclude this kid. And so then it always ends up being 30 kids. And
when people look at our cast picture at the end of the year, it looks like there's kids. And that's one of the things that a lot of times over many years, keep people on TV announcers say, well, the youth circus will be at such and such, and really, I always like to think of it as an adult professional circus production, and that we have the adults are the ones who really create the narrative framework. We bring in kids at various points, but it's the kids come and we've got a crew that's led by professional technicians, and we set up our show, and the kids are able to be part of that. We have a ringmaster who's dynamite, who's a guy from Colombia, who's very funny and not very sentimental, which is intentional, and but he really he runs the pacing of it. Memo Mendez does. And so the thing is that it's an optimal situation for kids because they get to be highlighted. They don't have to carry it. So it has I think, greater interest for general public than what just simply a kid's circus would have or a kid's theater show. But it makes it multi-generational. And the kids learn a lot by working alongside the adults, and the adults would not be doing what they're doing if having 30 kids drag them down. So it inspires the adult performers. They find ways to get as prepared as they need to be, and in a way they model behavior for the kids, and I think the kids get a huge amount out of it. And I'm sure Marcela can speak to that, but I think the experience of being in this kind of a hybrid show that in a way doesn't talk down to children, that expects children in a way to carry their weight as participants in it, really benefits them in terms of providing lifelong experience, an experience that lasts a lifetime in terms of how to comport yourself in public, how to appear in public, how to look at the audience and be generous to the audience, all those things. So that's kind of what the through line of what we've done since almost virtually the beginning. And it comes and goes in terms of the number of students we have in it. But as Erica said, you always go, oh, well, it would be much less logistically challenging if we had 15 kids. But, we come to know the students and their families, and come to appreciate the aspirations and the desires these kids have, and what each of them individually and then collectively can bring to our performances.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if Erica or Marcela could talk a little bit about what you see as the benefits to the young people that are involved. What do you see happening for them as they stay involved in the circus or as they're participating in these different programs and performances?
Well, I'll answer quickly because I have a feeling Marcela has a lot to share having her kids in the program. But we have kids that have come in, they're incredibly shy. They're not confident. They don't really know how to make friends. They don't trust the people around them to be good and kind people. And the environment that we cultivate for them makes them come out of their shell, makes them start to bond with the kids in the program with them. and start to understand that they can do things they didn't know they could do. And that trickles down to other areas of their life where their confidence starts to really blossom. And I'm going to hand it off to Marcela because she has some real life examples of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes, my family got to be part of the circus in 2017 while we were walking in our community in City Heights. I saw people going into the gym and I was like, what's going on here? Let's go. Come on, kids. I have three of my own. So that's when something really magical was going on in the gym. And I really got really excited. And I was like, where can I sign them up so they can be part of this great program? So we came on board. Maite, she really enjoyed stretching and being a contortionist. Mia, she's a little bit shy. At the beginning, she was shy. So she kind of overcoming that shyness in her and she walks on stilts. And she's like, Mom, I'm taller, because she's short for her age. And on stilts, she feels like really tall. And I was like, Hi, Mom, I'm taller. So she's building that confidence. Also, they get out of their shelf, like Miss Erica said, and they feel the trust on the artists that are there, like coaching them, like they feel trust on them, and they also feel like it's a circus family. They come all together. They talk to the other partners that they have, and they keep in touch with them. They maybe exchange phone numbers, so they're building something nice for the future, in learning circus skills through building the confidence in themselves.
Yeah, Marcela's daughter, my goodness, she claims when she joined the program that she was super shy, and that's probably true. But she's so fun to be around, and she can walk into a room of 50 people and just take command of the space, and they'll listen to her, and she attributes that to the program.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would imagine that that's really powerful. So young people are making friends. They're also building these important relationships with these adult mentors who are encouraging them and role modeling all these wonderful things. And then they get to experience all the fun of like being in the imagination. Like, as it sounds like so fun to be a young person walking around in stilts or being able to do contorting acts or all these different sort of magical things that are part of the circus. That sounds really amazing. um and so I'm curious, you were saying, John, when you first were getting inspiration to create this theater, it was something really important about being in a neighborhood that was important to you, being a part of a community that was important. And then you also said like stuff about Bertolt Brecht and like this political theater. How do you see all of that being influencing what you're doing or creating different outcomes than maybe some other circus program might have?
Rochelle, I kind of have to go back to the orientation of being in regional theater
Mhm.
and being in a physical building in which people have to pay a fair amount of money to go in, and people have to come to the theater. Uh, in between, after Cindy and I left Fern St Circus in 2003 and actually moved to Kansas. I ran a municipal arts agency, and there was an incredibly wonderful, driven man named Ted Zerger, who he and his wife had bought a couple of lots in the lowest income neighborhood in Salina, Kansas, and they created this thing called the Peace Garden, and it was a remarkable community garden. Ted poured his heart and his soul into it for many years. And there was one point when there's a refurbished old Fox Theater downtown that was having a bluegrass concert. And so they said to me they wanted to give out some tickets, some comps. So I went to Ted and I said, hey, look, you can get, go there. Maybe, we even can get a van and help people go down there. And the response that he got when he offered the tickets to the people in this low income neighborhood is, oh, well, that's not a place for people like me.
Mm.
So I think, that's a class issue. And I think for a lot of people who live in neighborhoods, they don't often feel safe and secure outside the confines of the neighborhood. So, for a lot of people, probably in this neighborhood, they don't think about going to the Globe, for example,
Right.
let alone all the way up to UCSD to La Jolla Playhouse. So it's that notion of the institution that is so dynamic and so big that people come to it, where what we do is to, and this was something that I always want to do, because I was a directing intern at the Globe and got a huge amount out of it in the year I was there. But I realized that it my calling was much more about being in a neighborhood. By that point, I was living in Golden Hill and was interested in what it was, and actually we got it started because we did I got a California Arts Council grant called Artists in Communities. So we was doing an in-school residency at Brooklyn Elementary School and then developing the after-school program at Golden Hill Rec. So, but it was that notion of being able to be in a community, and circus appealed to me in part because it doesn't rely on language entirely. Certainly, the things that people do physically are what's most moving to me anyway. But being able to go into a neighborhood where people live, work, learn, play, and be able to put on an entertainment or be able to create an after-school program, and then be able to talk to them in their own language is one of the reasons that Memo is so incredibly valuable. Is that he speaks in Spanglish. It's English and Spanish, and it means that when there are story points, because we always try to also create a narrative. There are ways that he can do some exposition by being in English and Spanish. So, part of it is that that circus is itself physical actions, physical comedy, physical theater, and that reaches people in their guts, and in their hearts. And then you add other elements, and like live music. Since the beginning, we've almost always had live music, and for me as a musician, that's been essential. When I used to do theater, I always wanted to have a live band. I think live music elevates any kind of live entertainment, and so music also is a language that doesn't rely so much on specific spoken language. And so I think it's all those things. Circus is really in many ways ideal for going into neighborhoods and playing at a sidewalk level. And part two, that there are circus traditions all around the world. Everything from Kenya. There are incredible acrobats in Kenya. There's very, very rich history of circus in Mexico and across Central and South America. Of course, Europe. The Soviets created an incredible circus system. Lenin did that. So.
Wow. So yeah, and City Heights is, I think, probably one of San Diego's most diverse neighborhoods in terms of like who lives there. So that makes a lot of sense that an art form like the circus would be really well suited to bringing in all some inhabitants of that neighborhood.
And the a rec center is that place. We discovered that right away working in Golden Hill. Golden Hill, at the time that we started it in '93, Golden Hill Rec Center was not used by Anglo families who were homeowners. They drove around off by Golf Course Drive, but didn't ever go in.
Right.
And we, unfortunately, in that case, we gentrified it. It was never our intention. But with the first kids who were in our after-school program for the first several years, they were all latchkey kids from the neighborhood. And it happened that there was a remarkable assistant director, one named Regina Moreno, and she, at a time when the city was making all their management staff at rec centers move from rec center to rec center, she refused the transfers, and she stayed there. She knew every kid. She knew all of the sketchy characters, and they listened to her. And she'd say, move that activity down. Okay, Mama, I'll do it. for the kids. We do it for the kids, and so those places can be the places of refuge for kids whose parents have to work two jobs, who don't have the mobility to find after school programs for their children that are outside of the neighborhood. So that's all those are compelling reasons for us as artists to try to work in the neighborhoods and to be a presence in the neighborhood and be there as on a day-to-day basis as much as possible.
Yeah. Wow, very cool.
Mhm.
So John was telling me that he invited you, Erica, because you have kind of a unique story. And so I was just curious if there was anything in particular that you wanted to share about your experience with Fern Street or, as an artist in that setting. Like, John, what was it that you were hoping
Oh,
that you
so
could share a little bit with us?
Erica doing a funny dance backstage at an opera in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting way to find myself in the circus. I've always been in the arts, and I've always been in the nonprofit world, never at the same time. They were kind of two separate interests, but to me, I've always felt that the exclusion of the arts is a very strong form of classism. To keep people out of the arts is very classist, and if there was a way to be able to reach people through that can't have access to the arts, I would love to be a part of that. Of course, I wasn't. I was just in the arts and doing nonprofit work separately. As a dancer, I was working at an opera. There were some jugglers. They saw me dancing like a clown backstage before the curtain opened, and they were like, that person needs to be in our show. And so they came up to me and they said, can you be in our circus show as an acrobat? I was like, I don't know how. I mean, I'm not an acrobat. And they were like, we'll teach you. We feel like you would be a great fit. You're very funny. And then they took me on as an apprentice, and that's how I found myself in the circus, mostly working, country clubs and street fairs, and still not really doing what Fern Street Circus does, but discovering the world of circus that I didn't know that you could have a job that was circus. That was news to me. In fact, I had kind of laughed when they, before they ever talked to me, because I thought, oh, wow, that must be a really big gig for a couple of jugglers to be able to be in an opera. Little did I know they were like the most busy and successful juggling troupe on the East Coast at the time, and that they were getting tons of work, and had no idea, didn't know about this world. So through that's how I kind of found my way to the circus world, became, pretty busy, worked with a lot of different organizations, found a lot of different great coaches. And finally, when I found my way to Fern Street, that was when I was able to merge the work of doing the nonprofit and the activism work and the art and put all that together.
Yeah. That's very exciting. And so how long have you been there?
So I think I started, John, right, early 2015.
I think so. Yeah, we met at Erica came up to us. We were doing a rummage sale in the parking lot of what's now the Target on Fern and Grape.
Right.
And Erica introduced herself.
Yeah, I was told I was moving to San Diego, and I was told by a colleague that if I go to San Diego, I have to look up Fern Street Circus because they have such an impact on the community, they may not even know how big the impact is. So I went on the website, and it was inactive, and it looked like Fern Street Circus hadn't done anything in years. And then finally, the website started saying things like, we're coming back, we're coming back. So I sent a resume to the email address on the website, never got a response. And then I just saw them at a flea market in my neighborhood. I was at Golden Hill at the time, and I was like, hey, this is what I do. You guys might want to hire me. And that's how it started.
I love it. So I think one of the questions that's probably on everybody's mind is like, how does a circus shift during a pandemic where everything goes online? Like, how do you even do that? So I'm super curious, like, what has that looked like for you all and, your performances, and also for the youth programs? What does that look like during the pandemic?
First thing was, of course, we had to shut down because we actually decided the day before the city decided to shut all its facilities, its public facilities like rec centers, we decided, oh, we can't meet next week, you know, and but I don't know about you guys, but I was in a little bit of a state of shock. Of, gee, what do we do? You know, as Rochelle knows, we're part of the Creative Youth Development Network, and it seemed like everybody in there was like, "Oh yeah, we're just going right into doing stuff online." And a step beyond was handing out computers in the first couple of weeks to their students, and I was like, "Ugh." So we did it sort of organically, and I'd say first, you know, first thing we did before we ever started performing again was go on Zoom. Erica really is the architect of that, and
Yeah, it was
maybe
a matter of
talk about that. And Marcella can talk about what it means, what it's been like for her kids. I
she's
think
been
that'd
working
be,
really
Yeah.
hard and making
yeah,
that work for her kids. It was a matter of, okay, let's take a couple of days to feel sorry for ourselves, and then let's remember the purpose of our organization and see how we can make this less stressful for them. And we just took all our classes onto Zoom, and we distributed equipment to all our students. We decided that actually it's better for us in a lot of ways because we can see our kids more often and offer more classes, because we are limited on space because we don't have our own space. We're based in a community center in City Heights. And amazingly, all of our coaches were willing to adapt, and they all learned the platforms, they learned the tech. And within, a few months, not only were we teaching Zoom classes, but we were doing live stream shows with the kids. So it was just focusing on the goals and not thinking about the stressful parts of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Marcela, how has that been for your kids to kind of switch to doing circus online?
At the beginning, it was something hard, but then we kind of got used to it. I have like a outside patio, and we kind of arranged it with a mat and a wire, some hula hoops, and a, a, extension cord for the computer to come outside, and have everything in a little box. Like, be ready. Like, it's just like a changing like the routine from going to the gym to change it to going outside to the patio. Um, Sometimes you have to like remind them, did you charge your computer? Remember your put it on the whiteboard. What's the link, the password? But it's been good. For Maite, she's doing online classes. She's a middle school student. For Mia, she's also middle school, and she's also taking some online classes. Marlon, he's a second grader. He's an 8-year-old, and he has grown a lot since we started doing the Zoom classes. At the gym, he was like wondering, what am I gonna do? But with the Zoom, he's like focused, and he's doing more juggling, and he has gone much, much better with the individual coaching that he has through Zoom. So it's just getting back to the routine, and um reminding them, you have your Zoom at 4, remember? Oh, put it on your white calendar, or put it on this. So it's been pretty good. I'm really patient. I'm a really patient mom.
well,
Sounds like it.
Marcella also it works for the school district, and so I think maybe Marcella, you could mention how that has been in working with families, and what kind of connection there is with the circus. How much time have we got, by the way? Are we good for time, Rochelle?
We're good. I was joking with somebody on a call last week. If you see me starting to like do like ventriloquist type of stuff, it's because my son comes in and he tries to like be all crazy and
Oh, is he
distracting.
trying to distract you?
And I'm like, stop it, go away. He's
I'm,
like singing really loud and doing all this stuff. We have a few more minutes, so I'm so sorry I got distracted there.
it's okay.
The
Yeah. But
real world exploded into the room.
maybe Marcelo though if you could address that, because Marcelo, we have an intern that this is the first year we've worked with an intern from San Diego State's School of Social Work, and Marcelo's been part of how we're figuring out how to use this person and how to make it worthwhile for her as well. But it's tied into what you know about how to connect with families, right?
Yes, I work for the San Diego Unified District under the mental health services. So we are part of a curriculum that we use the Incredible Years. So we do parent support groups, and also we support them with any resources that they need in the community. So our program is in 18 schools in the San Diego Unified. So we do social and emotional skills for parents and for kids. So I always try to share the resources that I have for my other job to the circus family that we have created. And if they need any resources, so we've been working with Alexis, our intern, in linking the parents to any resources that they need during the pandemic, and maybe after the pandemic. We also have that hands-on to help the families in need.
Mhm. So that really is just another extension of how community-based the circus really is, and that social aspect of the circus of really making sure that the community is well taken care of. Um, I'm wondering, as we're sort of like moving towards closing out our conversation
Hmm.
today, like from all of your perspective, what do you think has been the biggest impact of Fern Street Circus on the community? What are sort of the things that come to mind that have been the biggest impact?
That's a big question.
Well, and I think you brought it up in terms of like its reputation for being such an important treasure, I think was the word that you had sent me, John, in your bio. Like, what contributes to that, and what are you seeing as the impact?
I'll just say that I've never heard before being a part of Fern Street Circus. Whenever I ask someone, "What do you think about Fern Street Circus?" People have gossip. So if you ask them about any organization, any person, they'll say, "Well, this is good, this is bad." Never once did anyone say this is good and this is bad. They're always like, "Nothing. I have nothing bad to say about Fern Street Circus. They do great things for the community. Um, they don't even realize how much of an impact they have on the community. They're nothing but good." So that in itself speaks to me about
Yeah.
what Fern Street does for not just the kids that we serve directly, but for the community in City Heights, being able to bring circus to people where they are and where they live without asking them to pay. It makes people feel like they matter, like that they're a part of it, you know?
Mhm.
I'd say one thing that we didn't answer. You asked about the pandemic, and maybe can
Yeah.
tie it back into that. In terms of performance, uh,
Yeah.
we started right after the pandemic started. My wife and I were walking by El Super Market, the market in City Heights, and looking at all the people in line with the shopping carts. At that point, they were so being very careful about limiting the number of people in, and we had been part of an initiative to encourage what the United Way and them call hard to reach communities to participate in the census. And all the events that we were going to do to be a part of were all canceled. But
Mm.
that day I had this inspiration. So, well, what if we could be across the street from that supermarket line and have a big sign that said, do the census in English and Spanish, and have a juggler with a boombox, basically. And it took a while for the schools, for example, the
Mhm.
food and nutrition department, to gear up to how much food insecurity there was and how much they needed to be able to do to get themselves doing daily food distribution. But starting in about early June, we began working with them. We'd worked with Episcopal Community Services, and we found that we could provide socially distanced performance, socially distanced from each other, that is 7 or 8 of us at a long distance, but across the way from people who were driving and slowing down to 2 miles an hour or stopping. And so we provided entertainment all the way through to mid-November with that. And we did a lot on the census. We had 2 bilingual MCs. Marcela became one for the last couple of months. And I think it's fairly emblematic of the impact that we try to have. That we're addressing what we think is a real social justice issue in terms of uh, bringing resources to a community. Is the major
Yeah.
point of how the census is important, and being able to come and do things in a humorous way, in an entertaining way, in a musical way that hopefully engages people and makes an impact, so that then they go, oh yeah, sure, we'll go fill it out. We get the flyer. We had a circus themed flyer, and sometimes we got the Census Bureau would come down and actually sign people up. So they might do 10 or 15 families would actually, while they're getting their food at Rosa Parks or at Choice Mead or someplace, will actually sign up and do the census. So it in a way it's something that makes us of some use to community organizers. Marcela and I are both independently really interested in trying to create some forms of vaccine education to communities who are less equitably reached with the vaccine, or who may be hesitant, and be able to do a clown show that can inspire them to, oh, okay, well, yeah, I guess it really is okay. And then in that kind of stuff, actually, for me, goes back to the kind of way that Brecht used music and used comedy and used different modes of speech. He said there's plain speech, there's heightened speech with poetry, and then there's musical speech. So all those things can have a different impact on different parts of the body. And I think that, doing things like that, as Erica says, in a neighborhood, that we take people out of their everyday. There's not every day that a circus sets up and we have a 14-foot high wire in a neighborhood park. Not every day we have a 14-foot high wire, right, Erica?
Not every day, but yeah, it's like John said. It's you don't have to spend $100 on a Cirque du Soleil ticket. You also deserve to see a good show.
Yeah.
Whether you're waiting in line to get a little bit of food, or whatever it is, you deserve this just as much as everybody else does.
Yeah.
And we've also always, going back a long ways, gotten tickets from Cirque du Soleil for the families in our after-school program. A lot of people wouldn't be able to afford that $100 ticket, and we're able to get, whole families can go up and see a show that, the only expense is driving up there and maybe paying $20 for parking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it makes it affordable. Part of the service that we want to provide for the families that we work with and care about.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. Marcela, did you want to say anything more about like how you see Fern Street impacting the community? That's why you have stayed involved and become such an advocate for this organization.
One of the things that I believe in the mission of the Fern Street, supporting the families in the community and bringing a circus to the low income communities. And I also seen it, the changes in my family and my kids. That's why I'm still here and supporting the circus.
Awesome. Well, I have really enjoyed talking with you all. Is there any final thing that you would love our viewers to know about what you're doing or what you've learned this past year? Most of the viewers, I think, are folks in youth development, they're educators, they're artists who are working with young people themselves. Any sort of last words of wisdom or any resources or anything you'd want them to have before we go today?
I would say that I'm sure they're going through a very similar experience, and probably can relate to some of the challenges, like getting kids to turn their cameras on, and getting kids to connect on a more casual level. That's been our biggest challenge, is being able to keep the friendships going with the kids. And I'm sure some of them do some of the stuff we do, where we'll play games and we'll try to get them really talking to each other. And before, we never had to push the conversations. We were like, okay, let's stop the conversations and start the circus. And now it's like, talk to each other, have a conversation,
Right.
please. That's part of this. So I'm sure that they're having some of those same challenges, and not knowing what to do about it.
One last thing, maybe Erica and Marcela can talk about it, but we've been part of a social circus festival in Chicago in 2018 and 2019, We took 7, 8 kids there, including uh, Marcela's kids, and the three of us went. But they're doing it virtually this year. Do you remember what the date of it is, Erica? Erica's overseeing this, and
The Social Circus
two of,
Festival or the
yeah,
show?
the festival. I mean, if you Maite and Mia are both in it.
Yeah, I mean it's been going. We're in week 4. This Saturday will be the 4th week. It's a 5-week festival. So we're halfway through it right now. Every Saturday morning, our kids log on to Zoom at 6:30 in the morning, so that they can be a part of this with kids from Africa and there's Indonesia, I believe.
Indonesia, yeah.
And there's just so many countries involved, so they're getting to share this experience with a lot of other kids who are suffering in the same ways they are, but also growing in the same ways that they are.
Yeah, and that's something I'm hearing. It sounds like has been a silver lining for you all, that even though it's, obviously it's a bummer that you can't be with them in person, but there have been some little gifts of being able to be on Zoom and being able to connect with the wider community, and maybe being able to have more access to students more regularly than you would have. And I think it's important for us to remember that it's not all bad, and that some good things have come out of this really challenging time.
Well, we're taking the lessons of what we've been able to see positives by working in Zoom, being able to do small group classes, being able to offer more classes so that the really determined kids can do 3 or 4 or 5 activities instead of just the 2 that they could do in the gym. But we're taking that. We are part of an initiative to energize, to activate an empty lot at 41st and University, and we're working so that by May or June, we will have our own outdoor circus space. And we will be able to use the Mid-City Gym program as an introduction once a week. But then the kids who are more determined, who really want to learn more, can come to this outdoor space and have a 1 hour class in juggling, or stick around for then acrobatics or aerial. We'll be able to do trapeze for the first time. So the Zoom has shown us a way, and kind of coalesced for us what, along with economic development initiatives that we're a part of, helping us actually then have a space we can control. And that's
And it's made us grow as coaches in ways that we can expand our teaching vocabulary. Me in particular, I am used to having to hold kids' hands. It's because I'm teaching tight wire, and it's a long time before they're ready to just fly on their own. So building all these exercises that can help kids learn the foundations of wire walking without flying solo has been really good. It's also on Zoom, they're willing to do those exercises. Whereas if it's in person and there's some kids on the wire and they're on the ground trying to balance on one foot, they're not interested in that, because it's not the cool thing they're looking at. They see a wire, they want to be on the wire. So being able to actually really build the foundations before we put kids on a dangerous apparatus has been something that we're growing and expanding on as coaches.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Well, it's been so fun to hear about the amazing work that you all are doing and continue to do. And that's exciting that you've got sort of this next level that's going to be emerging with this new space. It reminds me of the Dojo Cafe that's in
very much so. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's an inspiration for the space.
And I believe the founder of the dojo, he is a Fern Street alumni, correct?
He is Carlos McRae, and he was actually on our board for a while.
You go.
He was in the after-school program.
No, he's wonderful. His dad is a legendary educator, and was an All-American at University of Arizona as a basketball player. Ernie McRae.
Very cool. Well, thank you all so much.
Yeah.
Congratulations on having this incredible circus have this longevity in the community, and I know you're going to continue to do amazing things. And I will see you, John, in all the spaces where we interact.
Yeah.
And
thank you for having us.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Okay.
Great to see
Thanks
you all.
for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.